in an apartment just east of downtown Colorado Springs. College student Herman Lozano is resting up for a big exam.
I was going to school and I was trying to get a technical degree in fiber optics. I was asleep and I felt this hot burning air in my lungs and I felt thirsty. The room was engulfed in smoke. I mean, like, blinded. That's when I knew it was a fire.
I can't imagine the panic that you would have in that instance as being just stuck in a coffin, basically.
But when I got to the door, that door was cherry red. I touched it and it burned me. No way I'm going out this way. Every time you took a breath, it felt like your lungs were gonna explode. That's when I looked at the window and I was like, it's my only way out. I was gonna jump out that window. There was no other choice. It's either that or burn.
What does he do? He's getting ready to jump out the window. When all of a sudden, it's almost like the hand of God reaches out, and it's a Colorado Springs firefighter.
God bless the firemen. They were there for me. They saved my life.
Once he's a safe distance from the blaze, Herman realizes that one of his neighbors was not so lucky.
And that's when I seen the body come out. And that's when I realized that he was dead. I mean, it wasn't good.
A few miles north, Sergeant Joe Kenda is lying in bed, wide awake.
I have never slept well because of what I've seen and what I've done. It's still true to this day. I have nightmares every night.
Kenda.
Dispatch tells me that a building at 502 East Pikes Peak is fully engulfed in flame. There are injuries and possibly one death, and they are requesting homicide.
Okay, I'm on the way.
When I arrived, fire trucks were there, fire lines were laid, there are medical people present, there are injured residents. There's a lot of people there. Fire is something that fascinates people. There are two natural fears among humans, animals and fire. So fire has an attraction all its own.
Hey, Sergeant. Hell of a way to start the day. So what do we got?
All right, this building's a bar on the lower floor. The upper level's got a couple of small apartments in it. Most of the fire damage is in the upper level, but the bar doesn't look good either.
Well, the name of the bar was the Rumors Bar, where a lot of regulars went. Neighborhood kind of bar, was well known in that community.
I take it not everyone survived?
No, we found a body in apartment 2C.
We are told that the residents escaped this fire, but one, a 34-year-old man named Randall Pierce, was discovered in his own apartment, collapsed on the floor. They put him in an ambulance, sent him to a hospital. He was pronounced dead on arrival.
Do we know the source of the fire?
We don't, but there's a fire investigator in there right now looking.
All right, I'll talk to him.
Yes, sir.
Do you mind throwing my coat in the car?
No, I don't care.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Kenda steps into the smoldering building to meet with the captain of fire investigations, Mike Gower.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, Joe, how are you?
It'd be better if I could breathe.
Trust me, it only gets worse.
The role of a fire investigator when they arrive at the scene is ultimately to establish the true cause of the fire.
Is this an intentional act or is it an accident? That's what I want to know.
So what are you thinking? Electrical fire?
I'm afraid not. Let me show you something. Clear signs of alligator charring.
Alligator charring refers to when you have deep burning on a piece of wood. As the wood gives up its water content, it leaves behind a very lumpy texture. It looks like the back of an alligator. It typically means there was high heat in the area. When we see that, we automatically become suspicious.
In terms of intentionally setting a fire, one requires an accelerant. The most readily available accelerant to anybody 24 hours a day in the United States is gasoline. When one finds evidence of gasoline as the source of fire, it is obvious to anybody this is an intentional criminal act.
Have you checked the victim's apartment?
Just briefly. You want to take a look at it?
Yeah, let's take a look.
Watch your step.
When he enters the apartment, Kenda can't help but notice how Spartan the living conditions are.
Randall Pierce was down on his luck a little bit. He was a veteran, been in the Air Force.
He's only lived there for about 2 weeks. He kind of stays to himself, and people get the impression he's trying to put his life back together.
Right here is where we found the body.
When you find a fire and you find a body that's either unconscious or dead, the body itself protects the floor under it. So when that person is removed, it leaves this perfect outline of this individual on an undamaged floor surrounded by soot.
It's a ghostly appearance. It's a reminder that this is more than just a fire. This is a loss of life that we need to get to the bottom of.
When I see the shadow of Mr. Pierce on the floor of this fire, I become very concerned. Mr. Pierce is on the floor. He's not sitting in a chair. He's not at a window on his knees trying to breathe air. He is prone on the floor. That raises the distinct possibility that he was made that way before this fire began.
But before Kenda can finish searching Randall Pierce's apartment, he's overcome by a sickening feeling.
It's very difficult to be in a structure right after it's burned. The odor's very strong. There are a lot of small particulates that are floating around that you can't even see, and you quickly start choking. It's extremely difficult.
Your eyes burn, it's sick to your stomach. The odor is almost overwhelming. It is truly unique. Firemen know the smell very well. The average person doesn't.
Mike, I gotta get out of here.
Yeah, me too.
We can go back to this later.
All right.
It's obvious that we just can't stay in here much longer, so it's time to back out and do some other things.
Man, I don't know how you guys deal with that on a regular basis.
Joe, after 15 years, I'm still not used to it. Hey, Captain, Sergeant. What's up, Duff? We found something around back. Let's take a look at it. Oh, look at this.
We're able to find some footprints, tracks that were leading away from the building in about a half an inch of snow that had fallen earlier that morning. They were strange in that they weren't walking. You didn't see footprints 18 inches apart or a natural gait for an individual. The person that was wearing these shoes was running.
Now, if I was the guy who was going to start a fire and that fire ignited, I think I'd be running as well. When people kill, they make mistakes because they are an emotional wreck at the time this is going on. Is this something he forgot? I hope it is something he forgot.
It took firefighters less than an hour to get a handle on the blaze, which broke out just after 5 this morning above the Rumors Bar on Pikes Peak Avenue. When firefighters arrived this morning, they found 3 people hanging outside of the windows waiting to be rescued. There was one victim to die in this fire. He was found on the floor in the top corner apartment.
The evidence suggests so far this could be a murder and a concealment fire. And we have found footprints leading away from the building that could certainly belong to our killer.
Before following the trail, Kenda needs to safeguard the evidence.
You want to go ahead and get some detailed photographs of those prints?
We want to make certain we have preserved them on film so that in the event we turn a dude who's wearing these shoes, we're going to know if they're the right ones.
All right, let's go.
We follow these tracks a very long way through a neighborhood. They're on sidewalk, they're in the street. The person never stops running.
But as the tracks lead farther and farther away from the crime scene, Kenda spots a problem overhead.
I look up the sky, it's clear, the sun is on its way up, and you're thinking we have to hurry because this is a very small layer of snow, and when that sun hits it, it's going to disappear, and so are my prints.
All right, we got to keep moving.
But within a few more steps of that, we were just into slush.
The sun reaches the area, and my prints disappear. We have found nothing. They have led us nowhere.
Damn it.
The sun was our enemy that morning.
It's always frustrating when a lead doesn't pan out, but somehow it's worse when the lead disappears in front of your eyes.
Hey, Sergeant. Hey, here's the photo of the shoe print. Wow, this is great.
We did have a pattern that we could match up to a person that we may run into or interview.
I'm sure this will come in handy down the line. I'll start by talking to those guys over there if you want to start over here.
You got it.
Kenda and Gower shift their focus to the residents who escaped the fire the night before.
I'm looking for a reason why Mr. Pierce would be a victim, and my only potential source at this point for that information is the other tenants in the building.
Excuse me, I'm Sergeant Kenda. How you doing?
I'm okay, just cold.
Did you live here?
Yeah, apartment 2A. What's up?
Mind if I ask you a few questions about the fire?
Craziest thing I've ever seen, man.
He says, I am amazed that anybody got out of this place alive. Because that fire went from 0 to really, really huge in a few seconds.
So how'd you get out?
Man, I jumped out the building.
He jumps 14 feet into a parking lot because his option is to remain in the building and burn to death.
Cut myself up pretty good, you know, but beats dying, right?
All right. So what do you know about Randall Pierce?
Not a whole lot.
Cause problems or start trouble for anyone?
Randall? Nah, he wasn't the type.
He says he's a good guy, he keeps himself, he's quiet, he hasn't been here very long.
I would see Randall passing by the hallway. Very quiet guy, very nice guy, peaceful, never bother anybody.
I don't think he'd bother a fly, dude. That's more than I can say for a lot of guys that stay here, though.
What do you mean?
Some of them, they have loose screws, you know?
Well, he said there's some people here that can cause some problems. Some of them seem to be not wrapped too tight, if you know what I mean, and maybe a little nuts.
Like who?
That guy over there.
Just let me do it.
What's his name?
Stevens. Thomas Stevens.
He describes Stevens, in his opinion, as an angry, disconnected, sort of very odd person that he thinks is maybe crazy.
Kenda considers the possibility that his killer might be hiding in plain sight.
Sometimes arsonists have almost a sexual attraction to the fire they set. They are in love with it. They want to watch when the building is burning.
I think they get a thrill out of being the center of attention without anybody knowing they're the center of attention.
Just let me do it, officer.
Mind if I talk to him for a minute?
Sure.
Mr. Stevens?
What do you want?
He's being treated for a burn injury to his right arm.
I'm Detective Kent. I need to ask you a few questions about this fire. Any idea how it started?
Nope. No clue.
You want to tell me how you managed to escape?
Mr. Stevens says he was in his apartment and he had smoked a cigarette, and then he fell asleep. He woke up and his apartment was filled with smoke, and he thought he hadn't put his cigarette out properly. That statement didn't make any sense. You think, well, did you smoke a cigarette that looked like a telephone pole? Stevens says he opens the front door and it's engulfed in flame. He decides he's going to run out of the building.
How'd you burn yourself?
I grabbed the railing on the way down, and it was hot, and it burned my arm.
When he says that to me, I'm thinking, Mr. Stevens, you can't see that this banister is in flames? Why would you grab it? Keep in mind that every other tenant in this building said they didn't even try to go to the staircase because it was in flames. So why did he do that, unless maybe he was already there because he's the one that started the fire?
Thomas, what were you doing up at 4 a.m.?
And he gets this startled look on his face.
It's none of your damn business.
Well, you're wrong there, Mr. Stevens. It actually is my business. And that's why we're here this morning. And maybe you're a huge part of that business. So we have a two-story building that is totally destroyed. We have one dead, we have many injured, and I have an oddball tenant who I really don't like at all, and the way he talks to me.
Can I see your shirt?
For what?
Because somebody burnt this place to the ground. I want to make sure it wasn't you.
Yeah, but I didn't do anything.
I'm looking for something more obviously than my instincts with Mr. Stevens. I need to have some physical evidence that says he's my person.
Thomas, you can either give me your shirt or I'll throw your ass in a jail cell downtown right now. It's your choice. Duffy?
What's up, Sergeant?
Can we get that swab for me?
Sure thing.
There is a test that can be performed in the field to check for hydrocarbon residue on someone's clothing, which is gasoline.
Can you see the photograph of the footprint?
Yes, sir.
Can you hand me one of your shoes, please?
Excuse me?
Your shoe. What do you think?
I just don't see it.
They are nowhere near the pattern I saw in the snow outside the rear axle of the building.
What do we got?
It's clean.
Thanks.
He has no odor of accelerant on his clothes, and a swab of his clothing does not produce a reaction to the presence of hydrocarbon, which is gasoline. My suspicions are fading away.
Here you go. Next time, be a little more cooperative.
Being what he is, being confronted, being angry, isn't illegal. Arson is, murder is, but there's no evidence to say he's part of either one.
Getting nowhere with the building's tenants, Kenda decides to turn to the victim for clues.
My next step, in my opinion, I need to know how he died. So I proceed to the coroner's office to see what they've got to tell me about Mr. Pierce.
How you doing, Dr. Stewart?
Joe? Mike?
Mind if we take a look?
Go right ahead.
He is not burned. He did not die from fire.
Do we know what killed him, though?
It looks like it was smoke inhalation.
The smoke from a fire contains poison. It contains phosgene gas, all kinds of awful things that are produced when plastic and rayon and nylon are burned, melted, or otherwise ignited. So it isn't the smoke that kills you, it's what the smoke contains.
But take a look at his forehead.
Oh, wow.
There was a strange indentation on the front of his skull going down to his nose, almost a pattern that was symmetrical coming down to a point.
How did he get that?
anything, man.
Maybe somebody assaulted him, gave him this head injury. And they then set a fire to conceal the murder.
We should get some photos of this. Doc, do you mind if I snap a few photos?
Not at all.
Sergeant Kenda suggested that we go back into that room where Mr. Pierce died and see if we could find anything that would explain what that could possibly be.
You good?
Yeah.
All right, thanks, Doc.
Anytime.
Let us know if we find out anything else.
I will.
Wrapping up at the coroner's office, Kenda and Gower head back to the crime scene.
The odor and the remnants of poison materials has dissipated somewhat, so we're able to spend some sufficient time in there to look.
Keep your eye out for anything that resembles that pattern on his head, for any sign of struggle.
I'm looking around for anything out of the ordinary, anything that's been removed or broken or used as a blunt instrument.
No, I don't think so. You don't have anything out here?
Kitchen's clean, too.
We're not finding evidence of an assault. We're not finding blood spatter. We're not finding anything that would indicate what possibly could have given him this trauma.
But just then,
Gower.
Kenda notices something on the corner of a small coffee table.
Looks like we got a match.
I noticed the top of the leg has the scroll work that comes from that injury.
I don't see anyone picking up his table and hitting him on the head, though.
No. I think our victim was already on the floor.
If you were crawling in your apartment, it would be right at that height where you would expect a person's forehead to be. The pattern on the forehead of Mr. Pierce was likely created while he was trying to crawl around in a panic, looking for a window to exit the structure, and then was ultimately overcome by the smoke.
To Kenda, it's now clear that starting the fire was the killer's main objective.
This is an arson fire resulting in death, but it's not a concealment fire of a victim who's already dead.
So what do you think, Mike?
I think we have to attack this from a different angle.
One of the key questions is why that building? Why that building was targeted?
Kenda has a theory.
Yeah. There was a bar on the first floor of the building. I mean, maybe that had something to do with it.
The most common reason arson occurs is insurance fraud.
This could have been intentionally set by someone wanting to collect on insurance money.
Who owns this business? What are its financial circumstances? We need to get in contact with who owns this bar and see what they have to say.
A quick search of property records indicates that Rumors Lounge is owned by one Victor Ornelas.
Mr. Ornelas?
Yeah?
I'm Sergeant Kenda from the police department. Do you mind if we come in and talk to you for a minute?
Yeah, sure. What's this about?
We are not prepared to tell him immediately that the place has been destroyed by fire until we see what kind of reaction he gives.
We'll explain everything. I just need to ask you a few questions about your business.
Or rumors?
If there is a insurance fraud fire going on here, he's the person who would benefit from that. So we want to see his circumstances and his demeanor. Is he nervous? Is he evasive?
Oh, my mom's here in case you need to ask some questions.
I was pretty much the manager. My mother was the one that did most of the books.
Está bien, mami.
Victor, where were you last night?
I was at the bar until close. I came home, went to bed, and I just got up a little while ago. Why?
How's the bar faring?
Business could be better. I mean, we get by, though.
So life without the bar might be a little bit easier?
No. Business is tough, but we love Rumors.
Rumors was very, very important to us. It wasn't the money thing that we were after anyway. It was more of a family thing.
In fact, we're getting close to paying it off, so.
We owned the lounge for about 15 years. We were only 2 payments away from paying it off. We did have plans to renovate it again because we were going to be able to use some extra money that we had saved and put away.
Well, that certainly eliminates the possibility of financial trouble as a motive. Why would you burn down a business you nearly own? There'd be no advantage to it whatsoever on his part.
Now Kenda is saddled with an extremely difficult task.
Oh, I'm sorry to have to tell you, but the bar burned down last night, and we believe it was arson.
What? What are you talking about? Burned down? Son of a bitch!
He is seething with anger. He's got rage on his face.
I know who burned it down.
Wait, how exactly do you know who did this?
Because he said he was gonna burn it down.
Really? Well, my. We're going to this person's home, who's the owner of this business, because we suspect this could be an insurance fraud fire. Instead of him being responsible, and instead of there being any evidence to support insurance fraud, he leaps forward as the best witness by announcing he knows who did this.
I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. I was shocked.
Was he a regular customer?
Yeah, ever since he moved upstairs.
He lived upstairs from the bar.
Yeah, that's right.
Can you tell us his name and what happened?
His name's Benji, Ed Benji.
Mr. Ornelas explains that Ed Benji is the guy responsible for this fire, that he's a white male in his late 20s. Only 8 days prior to this morning, he rented a room to him upstairs above the bar.
Victor Ornelas says that although Ed Benji had only been living there a short time, he was the source of all kinds of trouble.
Benji was described by those that knew him as being small and a big mouth.
What the hell, man? Can I help you?
He didn't want to obey rules or anything like that. He pretty much thought he can do anything he wants.
You didn't come to the bar to hang out with him, let's put it that way.
He came in last night. He was rowdy, bothering people for a drink.
Victor, another beer.
No, Benji, you've had enough.
Come on, just one more.
I said you had enough.
Put it on my tab.
Come on, I'm not gonna let you run a tab that you can't pay.
Mindy, buy me a beer?
No.
You're gonna be such a bitch, I wouldn't have asked.
Whatever.
He disregarded everyone else's privacy. He was a very difficult person to be around.
Hey, guys, you know me. Guys, hey, buy me a beer.
Come on, Benji. We got a game going.
Oh, come on, buy me a beer.
No.
Oh, come on, man. I know you got a game. Just one beer.
No.
Dude, buy me a beer. I'm not asking.
You have a problem?
I'm not.
Hey,
One second.
you're done.
You're done. No, you're done. No, I'm finished.
And they finally decide, that's enough of you.
And I kind of grabbed him by the arm and the back of his pants and escorted him outside.
Hey, what are you doing? Move, Victor. Come on.
That's when he turned around and he says,
I'm gonna burn this place to the ground.
I never thought he'd actually do it.
We've gone from a general state of confusion about this case to the golden ticket. The expression, "I'll show you," is one that made perfect sense to me. Well, Mr. Benji, now it's time for me to show you.
And what does this Benji look like?
Short, skinny, bald. I don't know.
Is there anything else you can tell us about him?
Give me something else. If I saw him right now, how would I know it was him?
He has a black eye. Yeah, he said something about getting into an argument or something. I'm not sure, but he definitely has a black eye.
Bingo.
that night I guess he had gotten in trouble somewhere downtown. I don't know exactly, but he had a black eye.
When you say something unusual like, man, he's got a cherry red nose or a black eye, that makes you pay attention.
You know where he might have gone? No clue.
Ed Benji doesn't have a car, or he walks on foot every place he goes. He's not going to be too far from where he began. He's going to be in this area somewhere. As far as we know, he has no place to go.
Thank you for your help. I'm sorry for your family's loss. We'll let ourselves out.
Víctor, nuestro negocio, hijo.
¿Por qué? Está bien.
¿Por qué?
Está bien.
¿Por qué?
With no time to waste, Kenda and Gower immediately begin strategizing how to run down their new prime suspect.
All right, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna split this up into different areas. Miller, I'm gonna be north of Pikes Peak if you wanna take south. That's perfect.
Me and my team will take the east side.
All right, sounds good. Just make sure you report in if you find anything. All right.
Our greatest asset in searching for him is his physical condition. A black eye. So we put that information out to everybody, and we go to all the places he frequents, because people are creatures of habit. They tend to go where they always go. We tell all of these people, if you see him, you call the police immediately.
During the search, Kenda stops at a gas station just a few blocks from the crime scene to see if anyone who works there has recently laid eyes on Ed Benji.
Excuse me. Yeah, we're looking for a guy that comes in here a lot. His name's Edward Benji, short, skinny guy. He's got a black eye. Can you give us a call if you see him?
Yeah, I saw that guy this morning.
Excuse me? You look at her and you think this is manna falling from heaven.
It's not working! Come on, it won't give me gas!
Hey, man, what are you doing?
I'm just trying to get gas!
No way, you can't put gas in a trash can.
My car's half a mile down the road, please.
It's illegal.
Oh, come on, I just want to get home.
Now, Mr. Benji says he's buying gas for his car, but guess what? He doesn't have a car. He's our guy. Period, the end. He's our guy.
And you sold him the gas?
I told him it was illegal and I couldn't, but he was so desperate and he just kept begging, and I felt sorry for him, so I let him do it.
All right, well, can you give us a call if you see him again?
Yeah, I sure will.
Thank you.
No problem.
To hear people make threats is a common thing. It's an emotion of the moment. It fades away, so does their anger, but once in a great while, someone comes along who says it and absolutely means it. Mr. Benji is one of those people.
As night rolls in, Kenda's men continue to comb the streets in search of Ed Benji. That evening, their resolve finally pays off.
This is Kenda.
It's the clerk from the gas station.
Your kidney's there right now?
You sure? Oh, yeah, it's him. Black eye and all.
Okay, stay right there. Don't approach him. We're on the way.
Within minutes, the CSPD fugitive team descends upon the gas station.
The officers in my fugitive unit have one purpose in life, and it's to go out and serve arrest warrants. The best people to send on this event are them. The moment of confrontation with someone is always the most dangerous moment. In police work, you never know how this is going to go. There's always that adrenaline rush. There's always that moment of breathlessness before you turn that knob.
Police department, come out with your hands up now.
What's on the other side? What if he traded his trash can in for a 12-gauge pump shotgun? You have no idea what he has. So here we have our fugitive policeman in a close quarters encounter with our suspect. They're not leaving without him.
Police department, come out with your hands up now.
Still no response. This is the moment. If it's going to go south, it's going to go south right now.
Get your hands up, now. On the ground, on the ground.
On the ground, face down.
When they kick that door, they're expecting the worst. What they find instead is this little guy with a black eye who looks rather pathetic.
Back at the station, Kenda's men escort Ed Benji into an interrogation room where Captain Gower is waiting for him.
I observe them through a two-way window while this is going on, but they conduct the interrogation.
Mr. Benji, do you know why you're here?
No, I don't.
Somebody set fire to the Rumors Lounge last night. You have any idea who might have done that?
Well, it wasn't me. I lost everything in that fire.
Mr. Benji denied being involved in the fire. If anything, he claimed to be a victim.
Okay, then you can tell me what you did last night.
I was at Rumors for a while, and then Victor started messing with me, so I left.
Benji paints himself as a victim of all of this.
Where'd you go?
Around, spent the night in a car. And when I woke up, I heard about the fire on a radio I had with me.
Mr. Benji has no reasonable explanation as to why he would walk that far to find a place to sleep when he already has a place to sleep 10 feet away from where he's standing. His apartment.
It's pretty convenient that you happened to stay in an abandoned vehicle the night your apartment building caught fire, don't you think?
No, I don't. I lost everything. That's not convenient.
Mr. Benji, I'm afraid what you're saying doesn't make a whole lot of sense, sir. It sounds like to me you set that fire.
No, I did not set the fire.
Then who did?
I don't know, but it wasn't me.
Mr. Benji vehemently denies, no matter how many times they confront him, no matter how many methods they use to try to get him to say something, he won't.
But without a confession, Kenda and his team will need to find another way to link Ed Benji to the crime.
Mr. Benji, may I see your shoes?
Want to see my shoes?
I was curious whether the pattern on his shoes would have matched that pattern in the snow that we followed for several miles on the morning of the fire.
I'll be back in a minute.
What we saw in the snow and photographed matched the shoes he was wearing.
But that's not the most incriminating piece of evidence.
Check out the laces.
We also noticed that his shoelaces, they had that singed look.
Mr. Benji singes his shoes because when you ignite gasoline, it's a flash fire. So when that flash occurs, Benji's standing in front of it, and it singes his shoelaces. That, in his case, is damning physical evidence.
It's time to arrest his ass.
The positive match of the shoes is the final nail in Ed Benji's coffin.
I didn't do it. I didn't do anything.
Mr. Benji, you're under arrest for first-degree murder and first-degree arson.
It wasn't me!
Detective?
What did this shoe tell you, huh? Just such bull.
Although Benji maintains his innocence, Kenda is certain he's got the right man.
Benji is Mr. Angry, Mr. Confrontive, Mr. I don't get along with anybody. And he winds up in yet another verbal confrontation.
Hey, what are you doing? Move, Victor! Come on! I'm gonna burn this place to the ground!
And then he proceeds to do precisely that.
My car's half a mile down the road, please.
All right, hurry up.
He goes to a gas station and vents a story as to why he needs gasoline. He comes back to that building. He is angry and he's displaying his rage by setting a fire. And then he runs away, and then he denies his involvement in it. But the evidence says otherwise. And Mr. Benji is going to pay a price for this behavior.
But after spending more than a year behind bars awaiting trial, Ed Benji is thrown a curveball by the justice system.
Mr. Benji is examined by a series of psychiatrists who decide and convince the judge that Mr. Benji is incompetent mentally, that he is unable to form intent. This cannot proceed in a criminal prosecution. He is then placed in a Colorado State hospital for treatment of his mental circumstances, and then Mr. Benji kills himself.
But Ed Benji's suicide doesn't bring back what was lost in the fire.
It makes it more tragic that our victim is collateral damage. He doesn't know Mr. Benji from the man on the moon. And yet he dies as a result of a circumstance to which he had no part.
Edward Benji is a coward because he did something in the middle of the night while people were sleeping and most vulnerable, and he didn't care who got hurt.
It is the usual story of bad things happening to nice people. It's always disheartening, it's always upsetting when it happens, and it happens all the time. A tragic end to a tragic story filled with tragic.
Chicago, 2005, 3 in the morning, the kind of hour that makes streetlights look like they're sweating. A payphone rings in a corner bodega no one uses anymore, its metal mouth trembling with that ugly, old-school buzz, and the clerk, half asleep, half paranoid, picks it up, because Chicago teaches you one thing early: ignore nothing that insists. The voice on the other end doesn't whisper. It doesn't shout. It speaks flat, like a headline printed in cold ink. You're going to find her where the train stops screaming. Click. Dial tone. Silence so thick it feels like a hand over your mouth. The clerk stands there with the receiver pressed to his ear, watching his own reflection in the glass, and for a second he looks like a man who just watched the city blink. By dawn, squad cars are stacked like barricades under the steel ribs of an elevated track on the south side, the kind of place where sound never dies, it just ricochets until it becomes a permanent ache. The L thunders overhead, metal on metal, a mechanical heartbeat that doesn't care who's bleeding beneath it. Between two concrete support pillars, behind a torn billboard advertising a summer that never comes, there's a shape on the gravel. Not dramatic. Not theatrical. Just wrong. A young woman's shoe lies on its side a few feet away, as if it tried to run without her. There's a smear of something dark, half soaked into the stones, half dried into a stain that will outlast the day. Yellow tape goes up. Cameras arrive. Neighbors gather in clusters, faces tight, arms crossed, eyes hunting for an answer the way people hunt for a familiar name on a list of the dead. Her name, when it finally reaches the radios, lands like a weight: Elena Marquez, 24. Not a celebrity. Not a politician's daughter. Not anyone the city had decided to protect. A barista by day, a nursing student by night, the kind of person who lives in the gap between bills and dreams, the kind of person whose disappearance doesn't stop traffic until the wrong phone call makes it impossible to ignore. Her mother is already on her way to the scene when detectives try to keep the name off the air, because they know what happens next. The story becomes public property, and public property gets trampled. Elena lived in a second-floor walk-up near Pilsen, the building old enough to have heard a century of arguments through thin walls. Her room was small, clean, almost aggressively normal. A calendar with neat handwriting. A coffee mug shaped like a little cat. Textbooks stacked like she believed order could save her. Her last shift ended at 9:40 p.m. at a cafe near the Loop, a place where the espresso machine screams all day and the tips never match the exhaustion. Co-workers say she laughed when she clocked out. She said she was meeting someone. She didn't say who. She didn't say where. That part, the missing name, becomes the first bruise on the case. Cameras love the neighborhood angles. They frame the scene like a movie, the elevated track looming overhead, the graffiti-like warnings on the walls, the cops in gloves kneeling in the gravel. They don't film the quiet details, the ones that really matter, the way Elena's hands are clean, no dirt under her nails, no sign of a struggle at the site. The way her jewelry is still on her. The way her phone is gone, wallet gone, keys gone, like someone didn't just take her life, they took her path out of it. Detective Marcus Kane arrives before the morning is done, his tie already loosened, his face set in that hard expression cops wear when they're trying not to feel anything at all. Kane has a reputation, sharp mind, bad sleep, the kind of detective who can walk into a room and make lies start sweating. His partner, Detective Reena Patel, is quieter, methodical, a collector of small facts. The two of them stand under the tracks and listen to the train rattle overhead, and you can almost see the question taking shape between them: why here? Why now? Why this clean? Cases like this usually spill. This one feels contained, like a secret folded into a pocket. They start with the timeline, because that's the only honest thing a case gives you in the beginning. Elena leaves work. Security footage catches her on the sidewalk outside the cafe, at 9:47 p.m., pulling her jacket tight against the chill. She checks her phone. She smiles at something off camera, something not recorded, something the city swallowed. At 9:51 p.m., she steps toward a dark sedan that slides into frame just long enough to be a blur, headlights off, passenger door opening like a mouth. In the footage, you can't see her hesitate. You can't see fear. You can't even see certainty. She just disappears into the vehicle. Like someone turned a page too fast. The sedan doesn't show up on any plate readers that night. No toll booths. No easy trail. Chicago is a city of a million routes and a million ways to vanish, and whoever took Elena knew how to use the city like a weapon. Kane watches the footage twice, then 3 times, jaw clenched. Patel pauses it at the moment Elena steps forward, and she notices something that makes her lean in close. Elena's right hand is hidden behind her hip, fingers curled around something long and pale. A straw. A cigarette. A pen. The image is grainy, but the gesture is clear. She's holding on to something the way you hold onto a small comfort. The question is what kind of comfort it was, and whether it was offered or taken. By midday, the city has a name for it. A cold case in the making. The phrase, cold case, moves fast, faster than grief, faster than facts, because it carries its own thrill, unsolved, mysterious, the idea that the truth is out there like a buried knife waiting to be found. Reporters stand outside Elena's building. They chase her mother's car. They ask neighbors questions that sound like accusations. Did she have enemies? Was she involved with drugs? Did she run with the wrong crowd? The usual poison. The city loves a missing girl until it decides she's to blame for being missing. Inside the precinct, the air is stale with coffee and old paper. Kane and Patel spread Elena's life across a board: photos, receipts, class schedules, phone records, what they can get. They learn that Elena had been saving for nursing school, that she sent money to her mother, that she volunteered at a clinic on weekends. They learn she'd been nervous lately, not terrified, just alert. Her friend Marisol tells them Elena mentioned a man who kept showing up at the cafe, sitting in the back, ordering drip coffee he barely touched. Always paid in cash. Always left a big tip like he was buying forgiveness. Elena called him the quiet one. Marisol laughs when she says it, but it's the kind of laugh that tries to outrun a memory. They pull the cafe's internal camera footage. There he is in the corner, face partly blocked by a hanging plant. Baseball cap low. Hands steady. No visible tattoos. No obvious tells. He looks like 1,000 other men in Chicago. He looks like no one. That's the problem. Yet there's a moment, so brief it might be nothing, when Elena steps behind the counter to wipe down the espresso machine and his eyes lift. The camera catches them meeting for half a second. Not flirtation. Not anger. Something colder. Recognition. Like a signal exchanged without words. When they check Elena's phone records, something else emerges, calls from a blocked number, every few days for 3 weeks. Short calls. 30 seconds. A minute. Always late. Always after 10 p.m. The night she vanished, the blocked number called at 9:44 p.m., 3 minutes before the sidewalk footage. Kane stares at the printout until the paper wrinkles under his fingers. Blocked numbers are a coward's mask. A blocked number says one thing: I want access, but I don't want consequences. Patel digs through Elena's emails. Nothing. Social media, quiet. No dramatic posts. No threats. Just normal young woman clutter, memes, school reminders, photos of coffee art. Then, buried in a spam folder, she finds something that doesn't belong, an email from an account with no name, no signature. The subject line reads like a newspaper slap: you forgot something. Inside, only a single attachment, a photo. It's grainy, taken from far away. Elena walking home, shot from across the street. Timestamp, 11:12 p.m., 2 nights before she vanished. The photo doesn't show the photographer. It just proves someone was watching her. Proves someone wanted her to know. Kane leans back in his chair, the springs in it squealing like a rat. That's not random, he says, voice low. That's pressure. Patel doesn't answer, because her eyes have landed on something else in the photo. Something so small you could miss it if you weren't trained to hunt shadows. Behind Elena, reflected in a storefront window, is the faint shape of a car. Dark sedan. Headlights off. A silhouette behind the wheel. They canvass the route between Elena's work and her apartment, chasing witnesses like ghosts. Most people saw nothing. Some people saw everything, but not the right thing. One man says he heard a woman shout near the tracks around 10:30 p.m. Another says he saw a car idling near the underpass, but that happens every night. A teenager claims he saw Elena arguing with a man in a cap, but when shown photos he can't pick anyone. The city gives you noise. The city rarely gives you clarity. Then the first truly strange detail drops onto the table like a live wire. The crime scene techs find a strip of fabric caught on a jagged piece of concrete near the support pillar. It's not from Elena's clothes. It's black, synthetic, smooth, like the sleeve of a uniform. On the fabric, a faint chemical smell, sharp and clean. Not gasoline. Not smoke. Something like disinfectant. Something like a hospital. Patel holds the evidence bag up to the light, watching the fibers shimmer, and in her head, Elena's nursing textbooks suddenly feel less like background and more like context. The coroner's report doesn't bring comfort. It brings questions that multiply. Time of death estimated between midnight and 2 a.m. No clear signs of a prolonged fight. No defensive wounds. No clear weapon recovered. It's as if the violence happened in a controlled space, not under a train line where everything is chaos. As if Elena was brought there after the fact, placed where she would be found, staged like punctuation at the end of a sentence someone wanted the city to read. And that payphone call, the one the clerk answered at 3 a.m., it becomes its own monster. Kane tracks down the bodega clerk and takes his statement twice. The clerk insists the voice sounded like a man, maybe in his 30s or 40s. No accent he could place. Calm. Practiced. Like someone who had rehearsed the line. The clerk says the voice didn't sound afraid of the police. It sounded amused. The payphone itself is wiped clean. No prints. No DNA. Just metal and silence. 2 days later, as the story spreads, another call comes in, this time to a late-night radio show, the kind that feeds on the city's insomnia. The host is mid-sentence, joking about the weather, when the caller cuts in. The producer later says the line lit up without a name, without a number. The voice is the same flat tone, the same cold ink. "You're looking where the train stops screaming," it says again, and then it adds something new. Something that makes the host's smile die on air. She wasn't the first. Click. Phones explode. Tips flood the department. Kane's inbox fills with messages from people who want to be part of the mystery, who want their own lives to brush against a headline. Some tips are cruel. Some are stupid. Some are desperate. Patel sorts them like evidence and finds a thread that makes her hands go still. 3 years earlier, in 2002, another young woman had been found near an elevated track, different neighborhood, similar staging, phone missing, no clear suspect. The case was shelved, filed under unknown offender, forgotten by a city that collects tragedy like dust. 2 cases don't make a pattern. But they make a possibility, and in homicide, possibility is enough to keep you awake. Kane drives out to the 2002 scene location that night, alone, because he doesn't trust daylight to tell the truth. He parks under the tracks and listens to the train's hammer overhead. The air smells like rust and old rain. He stares at the concrete pillars until his eyes blur, and he tries to imagine Elena here. Tries to imagine anyone here, placed like an afterthought in the shadow of something loud enough to drown out screams. He thinks about that caller, that line, that certainty. She wasn't the first. And he feels the case slipping sideways into something larger than a single death, something that won't fit neatly onto a board. Back at the precinct, Patel opens Elena's personal notebook recovered from her room, flipping past class notes and grocery lists, until she finds a page torn at the edge, as if someone had tried to remove it and failed. On the page, written in Elena's neat hand, are 4 words circled hard enough to scar the paper: blue line stop, midnight. No date. No name. Just that. A transit line. A time. A meeting place that suddenly feels less like a plan and more like a trap. Outside, Chicago keeps moving. Trains keep screaming overhead. People keep living like they can outrun the dark. But in the spaces between streetlights, in the seconds between footsteps, the city holds its breath, because somewhere in its maze of alleys and stations and underpasses, someone is listening to the headlines being born. Someone is measuring the panic like it's proof of power, and the only thing colder than the January air is the thought that the voice on the phone might still be out there, waiting for the next time the train stops screaming. Midnight on the blue line isn't a time, it's a mood, a low hum of fluorescent light and stale air, a corridor where everyone pretends they're invisible, because visibility gets you noticed and notice gets you hurt. Kane and Patel stand on the platform the way you stand at the edge of a bad decision, shoulders tight, eyes tracking every shadow that moves too smoothly. The notebook page sits in an evidence bag in Patel's coat pocket, the inked circle around, blue line stop, midnight, like a bruise that refuses to fade, and down on the tracks the third rail glows with a warning every commuter learns to respect too late. Above them, a digital clock flips its numbers with an impatient tick, each second sounding like a tiny door locking. They started the night with the obvious, which stop? Chicago has too many. Pilsen's nearest isn't on the blue line, but Roots Fold, Live Splice, and Elena's schedule was a patchwork of trains and buses and quick walks in neighborhoods that changed their faces block by block. Patel mapped Elena's usual commute from the cafe to her apartment, then plotted détours, places a person might go when they are meeting someone they don't want anyone else to see. One station kept resurfacing like a body refusing to stay underwater. UIC Halstead, close enough to be plausible, busy enough to hide in, surrounded by medical buildings that make the smell of disinfectant feel less like a clue and more like a signature. The first time they checked CTA surveillance, it was a punch in the stomach. Chicago's cameras don't see everything. They see angles. They see fragments. They see people in motion like ghosts. The platform footage from the Friday night Elena disappeared shows a crowd at 11:58 p.m. Students, late shift workers, a couple arguing silently, their mouths moving, but their audio lost to the world. Then, at 12:01 a.m., a figure appears near the far end of the platform, half in frame, half swallowed by a column. A baseball cap. A dark jacket. Hands in pockets like he owns the air. He doesn't board the next train. He doesn't look at the schedule. He just stands there, facing the camera for 2 seconds with his head slightly lowered, as if he knows exactly where the lens is and exactly how much of him it can't capture. Then he steps back into the blind spot, and he's gone. Kane watches that clip until his eyes feel raw. He's taunting, he mutters, and the word tastes like metal. Patel isn't sure if it's taunting or discipline, the way someone tests a lock by turning the handle without forcing it. Either way, the message is the same. I can be here and you can't stop me. They pull more footage. The mezzanine. The stairwell. The turnstiles. At 12:04 a.m., a woman in a light jacket passes through the gates and the camera catches her profile for a heartbeat. It isn't Elena. Different hair. Different stride. But she hesitates as if she heard her name and almost turned. The image blurs. The moment dies. The city keeps moving. A transit cop in the station office tells Kane something that doesn't appear in any report, because it didn't feel like evidence until it did. He says that on the night Elena vanished, there was a minor incident, an unattended bag, near the platform benches. Protocol says evacuate. In reality, late night protocol says you nudge it with your foot and hope it's just someone's gym clothes. The bag turned out empty. No bomb. No threat. But the evacuation forced people out of the station briefly. It scattered the crowd. It created gaps. It created darkness. Kane's mouth tightens when he hears it. An empty bag, he says, as if repeating it will make it less deliberate. Patel pictures it. A cheap distraction that buys a predator minutes, and minutes are the currency of abduction. They trace the bag report. No fingerprints. No camera angle on the person who left it. The bag itself was tossed. Another detail swallowed by routine that killers love, because it makes their choices look like accidents. Then the second shoe shows up. It's found 3 blocks from Elena's apartment, wedged behind a dumpster in an alley that smells like old beer and wet cardboard. Not the shoe from the crime scene, this one is its pair, scuffed hard at the toe. The laces are torn, as if someone yanked them too quickly, too angry, too impatient. There's a smear on the rubber sole, pale and chalky, like powdered plaster, or hospital-grade cleanser. Patel stares at it under the lab light, and the earlier strip of synthetic black fabric replays in her mind like a warning siren. Kane asks the tech if it's blood. The tech shakes his head. Could be drywall. Cement. Something like that. Something like a wall. Something like a room. They go back to Elena's apartment building with the shoe in a bag and start knocking on doors. The building answers the way old buildings do, reluctantly. A neighbor on the first floor says she heard footsteps in the hallway late that night, heavier than usual, 2 sets, one dragging. She thought it was a drunk couple. She didn't look, because Chicago teaches you that looking can invite trouble inside. Another neighbor says he saw a dark sedan idling by the curb around 10 p.m., engine off, lights out. He remembers because it felt wrong, like a predator playing dead. He can't remember the make. He can't remember the plates. He can remember the absence of headlights, like it was a deliberate choice. Patel finds something else in Elena's mailbox, an envelope without postage, slipped in by hand. It's empty, but the inside smells faintly of antiseptic, the same clean chemical bite that clung to the black fabric. Someone stood right here, in this hallway, close enough to touch her mail, close enough to breathe the air outside her door. Kane looks at the envelope and feels the case tighten around his throat. It's not just that someone killed her. It's that someone played with her first. At the lab, they run the fabric strip and the shoe residue through every test they can justify without the brass screaming about overtime. The chemical comes back as a common disinfectant used in medical facilities and some industrial cleaning services, nothing unique, nothing that points to a single door. The fabric. It matches a blend used in certain uniforms, security, transit, hospital transport. The kind of jacket you can wear and not be questioned when you're moving quickly through places other people aren't allowed to linger. Kane swears under his breath. Patel doesn't. She just writes it down, because anger wastes time and time is what the killer is stealing. They look harder at Elena's world for cracks. Kane pulls her class enrollment records and finds she'd recently been assigned a new clinical rotation at a small private nursing home on the west side, one with a name that sounds like comfort and a reputation that doesn't. Patel goes to the nursing home alone, because she knows how men talk when they think they're alone with a woman, how their words slip. She sits in the lobby beneath a framed photo of smiling seniors and fake greenery dusted into permanent cheer. She asks about Elena. The receptionist smiles too fast. "Oh, yes, Elena, sweet girl," she says. "Terrible thing." Then the receptionist adds, too quickly, "She only came here a couple times. Didn't even start her full rotation." Patel asks why. The receptionist's eyes flick away. She said she had scheduling issues. Scheduling issues. That's what you call fear when you don't want to admit the building might have a problem. Patel requests the employee roster for the nights Elena visited. The administrator hesitates, polite as a locked door. "We cooperate," he says, "but we have privacy rules." Patel smiles back, sharper. "So did Elena," she says, and the room goes quiet. Eventually, she gets names. Not all. Enough to start. One jumps out. A part-time security contractor, who worked the evening shift, hired through an outside company. Male. Mid-30s. No listed photo in the file. Address outdated. The company says he quit 2 weeks after Elena vanished. No forwarding information. Kane reads that line and feels the floor tilt. People quit jobs all the time. But in homicide, timing isn't coincidence. Timing is confession in a different language. Kane digs into the security company. It's a thin shell with a glossy website and a P.O. box. A business that exists, just enough to be hired and not enough to be sued. He calls the number on the website. It rings. It rings again. Then a voice answers, recorded, cheerful, empty. "Leave a message." Kane leaves nothing. The call ends with that familiar tone, and for a split second, he hears the payphone call in his head again. Flat. Calm. Practiced. Back at the precinct, Patel spreads the 2002 case file across her desk, pages yellowing at the edges like old teeth. The victim's name is Tanya Green, 19, found near elevated tracks in a different part of the city, phone missing, no weapon recovered, staged in a place designed to be found and forgotten. The file is thin, because the case didn't have a celebrity attached to it, and the city had other fires to put out. But Patel finds a detail that makes her pulse change. Tanya's roommate reported receiving anonymous calls in the weeks before Tanya died. Blocked number. Short calls. Silence on the line, then a single sentence once, "Tell her not to be late." Patel sits back, the chair creaking under her, and the room seems suddenly too quiet. Different words. Same rhythm. Same need to control. Kane comes over, sees Tanya's file, and doesn't have to be told. He reads the line about the calls and his jaw tightens until it looks painful. He's been practicing, he says, voice low. He's been getting better. They take Tanya's case and line it up against Elena's like two photographs with the same fingerprint. Different neighborhoods, same anatomy of fear. Both women were moving through ordinary nights. Both were pulled off their routes with surgical timing. Both were left near the tracks like punctuation, beneath something loud enough to drown out proof. And in both, there's the scent of disinfectant, the sense of a controlled space, the implication that the scene where they were found is not the scene where they died. They bring in an old detective who worked Tanya's case, retired now, belly thicker, eyes still sharp. He sits in the interview room with coffee he doesn't drink, and looks at Tanya's photos like he's seeing a ghost he failed. "We never had enough," he says. "We had rumors. We had street names. We had one guy we liked for it, but nothing stuck." Kane asks about the guy. The retired detective shakes his head. "A transit worker. Not CTA, contracted. Clean record. The kind of clean that makes you suspicious. We couldn't place him with her. We couldn't place his car. And then he vanished. Moved. Changed jobs. Gone. Contracted. Transit. Security. Disinfectant." The case starts to smell less like chaos and more like a system, someone moving between institutions like a fish in water, using uniforms and access, and the city's blind trust in anyone who looks official. That's when the tip line delivers its first real punch. A woman calls in late on a Sunday, voice trembling so hard it clicks against the words. She doesn't give her name at first. She says she saw something the night Elena disappeared, something she didn't report, because she didn't want to get involved, and now she can't sleep. She was driving near the underpass around 1 a.m., she says, and she saw a dark sedan pulled into a service alley behind a maintenance door, one of those doors you never notice until you need to hide something behind it. A man was standing outside the driver's side, wiping the hood with a cloth like he was cleaning fingerprints, like he was cleaning history. The woman says the man looked up when her headlights swept across him, and for a second she saw his face clear as a photograph, pale eyes, not bright, just empty, and a mouth that didn't move like surprise. More like annoyance. Like she was interrupting him. Kane asks where. The woman gives cross streets. Kane asks what kind of car. The woman says she isn't sure, but she remembers the tail lights, 2 horizontal bars, red and narrow. Patel writes it down and her mind starts assembling a list of sedans that fit. Kane asks if the man wore a uniform. The woman pauses. He had a jacket, she says. Dark. With something on the shoulder. A patch, maybe. I couldn't read it. Kane's eyes flick to the evidence bag holding the black fabric strip, and the air in the room shifts. Not relief. Not victory. Something darker. The feeling of stepping onto a bridge and hearing it creak. They drive to the alley that night, even though it's been days, even though rain has fallen, even though evidence doesn't like waiting. The maintenance door is still there, paint peeling, metal handle stained by thousands of indifferent hands. Kane tries it. Locked. Patel finds a small sign above it. Authorized personnel only. No company name. No agency. Just the promise of privacy. Kane calls for a warrant. The paperwork crawls like a wounded animal. They are forced to wait, forced to breathe the same stale air of uncertainty, forced to let the killer stay ahead by hours that feel like years. While they wait, Patel stands in the alley and listens to the city. Far away, a train shrieks, that high metallic scream that makes your teeth ache. Underneath it, she hears something else, quiet, almost delicate, the drip of water from a gutter, steady as a countdown. When the warrant comes through, they push the door open and the smell hits first, industrial cleaner, old damp, metal, and something underneath it that makes your skin tighten, a faint organic sourness that doesn't belong in a place meant for tools. Their flashlights sweep across a narrow corridor leading to a storage room. The room is mostly empty. A few pallets. A rusted cart. A cracked plastic chair. But on the concrete floor, near a drain, there's a stain that looks like someone tried to scrub a story out of existence. Patel kneels, gloved fingers hovering over the discoloration. She doesn't touch. She doesn't need to. The drain smells like bleach and regret. Then Kane's flashlight catches something small tucked behind the cart. An object so ordinary it feels obscene in this room. A keychain. Cheap metal. A little cat charm. Elena's little cat. Kane's breath catches, and in that single second, the case stops being a puzzle and becomes a wound. Because the charm isn't a clue left by accident. It's a souvenir. It's a trophy. It's proof the killer was here, in a place marked authorized, a place designed to keep the wrong eyes out. And somewhere in the city, somewhere beyond the reach of their flashlights, someone who wears the right jacket, the right patch, the right face of legitimacy, is walking free with the calm certainty of a voice that called before anyone else knew to listen, and the trains keep screaming overhead like the city itself is trying to drown out the truth. The cat charm sits in Kane's palm like it weighs 100 pounds, cheap metal warmed by his glove, and the room around it feels suddenly too small for what it implies. This isn't a street crime, this isn't random, this is access, permission, the door that only opens for the right people, and that thought crawls up the spine, because it means the killer doesn't need to break in, he just walks through. Patel turns her flashlight toward the drain again, not because she expects it to speak, but because concrete and water remember things people try to erase, and she can already see where someone scrubbed too hard, where the floor's texture has been sanded down into a smooth patch, the kind of smooth you only get when you're desperate to remove something that won't leave. Crime scene techs move in, quiet, efficient, the ritual of gloved hands and evidence bags, the soft rip of tape, the click of camera shutters capturing stains that the eye wants to pretend are harmless. Kane steps back to let them work, and the alley behind them exhales cold air like a throat clearing. A train screams somewhere in the distance and it sounds different now, less like background noise and more like laughter. Patel watches a tech swab the drain, watches the cotton tip disappear into the darkness, and she imagines Elena's last hours compressed into this hidden corridor, a place marked authorized like a joke. The keychain gets tagged, sealed, and carried out like a body, and as soon as it's gone the room looks even emptier, as if the only reason it existed was to hold that one small confession. Kane stands in the doorway and stares at the sign outside again, the one that keeps ordinary people away, and his mind starts doing what it always does when he feels a pattern forming. It starts naming categories. Transit maintenance. Contract security. Hospital transport. Cleaning services. People who can move through stations and service corridors and medical facilities with a badge and a patch and a clipboard. People who can approach a woman at midnight and not look like a threat, because the uniform does the threatening for them. Patel is already on her phone, already pulling property records, permits, contracts, any paper trail that tells you who owns a door like this and who is supposed to have keys. The underpass sits in a gray zone between city and transit authority, between oversight and neglect, the bureaucratic swamp where accountability goes to die. The initial answer comes back as a tangle of names: city infrastructure, CTA lease, subcontracted maintenance, third-party security. A web designed not to be traced. Patel presses her thumb against the screen, jaw tight, and says, "Someone gets paid to own this door. Someone gets paid to decide who can be here." Kane drives back to the precinct with the charm in his head like a flashing light, and when he walks into homicide he can feel the case already changing shape, already drifting toward a category that makes captains nervous. Cases involving access make departments defensive. Cases involving uniforms make departments political. He heads straight for the board, pins a fresh photo of the maintenance door beside Elena's face, then takes a marker and draws a thick line between them, hard enough to leave an indent. The line looks like a wound stitched closed. The lab calls the next afternoon, and the voice on the other end sounds careful, as if the words themselves are evidence. The swab from the drain has degraded blood traces, trace amounts, partial profile, not enough to identify Elena outright, but enough to say something violent happened near that drain. The scrubbed stain wasn't imagination. It was effort. The residue on the concrete includes industrial bleach and quaternary disinfectants, the kind used in hospitals, nursing homes, commercial cleaning crews that sanitize spaces for a living. Patel closes her eyes for a second, absorbing it, the way a boxer absorbs a hit by leaning into it. The killer cleaned. The killer planned to clean. The killer cleaned like it was routine. Kane asks the tech about fibers. The tech says there were microfibers caught in the drain grate, black synthetic, same blend as the strip recovered near the tracks. The same jacket. The same uniform family. Kane ends the call and stands still for a moment, listening to the precinct's noise, phones, printers, footsteps, because it's the sound of people pretending systems work. He feels the case pressing against the edges of that illusion. They request CTA service corridor footage, badge access logs, maintenance schedules. The response comes back slow and reluctant, filtered through legal and PR, the bureaucratic version of a locked door. "We're cooperating," the CTA liaison says, tone too smooth, words too rehearsed. Cooperating means you'll get it when they've cleaned it, when they've edited it, when they've decided what you're allowed to see. Kane pushes, Patel pushes harder, and within 48 hours they get a thin packet. A list of authorized personnel who accessed a service gate near the underpass in the window surrounding Elena's estimated time of death. The list has names. The list has badge numbers. The list has enough to make a detective's mouth go dry. There are only 3 accesses between midnight and 3 a.m., which would look tidy if tidiness wasn't suspicious. One is a maintenance worker responding to a reported signal issue. One is a security patrol doing a routine sweep. The third is a supervisor signing off on the incident report. 3 entries, all connected, all neat, all narratively convenient. Kane looks at the timestamps and feels something prick at his instincts. That old sense that says, this is a story someone wrote after the fact. Patel checks the signal issue report. It's logged at 12:17 a.m. The call to maintenance came from a payphone number. Patel freezes, because payphones don't call maintenance unless someone makes them. She reads the number twice, then runs it against the bodega phone that rang at 3 a.m. It's not the same payphone, but it's within the same corridor of the city, old, public, hard to trace, easy to wipe. Kane leans over her shoulder. He used payphones like punctuation, he says. Dot. 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 He writes the night in pieces. They bring in the 3 employees on the access list. The maintenance worker is a tired man with grease under his nails and a face that crumples when he sees Elena's photo. He says he responded to the signal call, found nothing wrong, logged it, left. His key card shows entry and exit times consistent with his story. The security patrol is younger, defensive, the kind of guy who thinks answering questions makes him look guilty. He says he did his sweep, saw nothing, returned to his post. His tone is irritated, his eyes darting. The supervisor is the one who changes the room. He arrives in a crisp jacket, calm, controlled, and the first thing Kane notices is how comfortable he looks under fluorescent lights, as if interrogation rooms are just another office. The supervisor gives his name, Daniel Rusk, and hands over ID before anyone asks. His voice is steady. He says he oversaw the signal report review. He says he signed off. He says he never left the control office that night. Kane watches him speak and feels his own pulse slowing, because he recognizes the cadence. Controlled, practiced, the voice of someone who talks for a living, someone who knows how to keep panic out of words. Patel slides the photo of the cat charm across the table, still in its evidence bag. Rusk's eyes flick to it. Not long enough to be obvious. Long enough to count. His expression doesn't change, but his throat moves. A swallow. Tiny. Human. Patel says Elena's keychain was recovered from a restricted maintenance corridor. Rusk's lips part, then close. That's unfortunate, he says, and the word sounds like he's discussing a spilled coffee. Kane leans in, elbows on the table. Do you know her? He asks, simple, direct. Rusk meets his gaze without blinking. No, Kane holds the stare. Have you seen her? No, Kane's voice stays flat. Do you know anyone who would take her? Rusk exhales lightly, like a man indulging a ridiculous question. Detective, I manage schedules and compliance. I don't, Kane cuts him off. You manage access, he says. You manage doors. Rusk's smile is a thin thing. We all manage doors, he says, and for a moment the room feels colder, because it sounds less like a statement and more like a philosophy. Kane watches him, searching for cracks. Patel watches his hands. They are clean. No tremor. Nails trimmed. No grease, no grime. A man who doesn't work on tracks. A man who works on paper. A man who could wear a uniform jacket without wearing a job. They let Rusk leave because they don't have enough to hold him, and the moment he walks out, Kane slams his palm against the table once, hard, the sound sharp in the dead air. Patel doesn't flinch. He's wrong, she says quietly, and it isn't a guess, it's a diagnosis. Kane nods. He's too calm, he says. He's too filed. The next hit comes from Elena's phone, what's left of it. Her carrier provides tower pings from the night she vanished, and while the phone itself is gone, its last handshake with a cell tower gives a rough map of its final movements. It leaves the loop. It moves west. It pauses near the Blue Line corridor. Then it goes dark near the underpass service alley at 12:41 a.m. The disappearance isn't romantic. It's technical. A phone stops talking when it's powered off, smashed, or thrown somewhere that eats signal. Kane stares at the map and thinks about the empty bag evacuation, the cleared station, the blind spots. He imagines Elena stepping down a stairwell toward a service door, because someone told her it was official, urgent, private. He imagines a jacket with a patch and a voice with authority. He imagines how easy it is to weaponize legitimacy. News vans circle the precinct again. Cold case is already being said on air, even though the body is barely cold in the morgue steel drawer. The public loves the phrase, because it implies a long mystery, a story that will stretch. Kane hates it, because it feels like surrender wearing a label. The chief wants updates. The mayor's office wants reassurance. The CTA wants distance. And in the middle of it, Elena's mother sits in a plastic chair in the hallway with a paper cup of water she never drinks, eyes red and fixed on a point that isn't there. When Kane speaks to her, he keeps it clean, keeps it factual, because grief is already a storm and lies would be gasoline. He tells her they found something of Elena's in a restricted area, that it suggests Elena was moved, that they are tracing access logs. Elena's mother nods slowly, absorbing each word as if it's a foreign language. Then she says something that makes Kane's chest tighten. She told me someone was watching her, she says. She told me she saw a man in a uniform near the cafe. I told her it was probably nothing. I told her the city is full of people in uniforms. She laughs once, broken. I told her uniforms mean safe. Patel leaves the precinct that evening with a copy of Rusk's personnel file and a list of his known addresses. She drives past the nursing home again, past the clinic Elena volunteered at, past the cafe where she last smiled at something off camera. She watches uniforms everywhere, security guards, transit workers, paramedics, moving through the world with the ease of people who never have to explain why they are there. She realizes something that feels like a trap snapping shut. If the killer uses a uniform, then witnesses will describe him as someone official, someone supposed to be there, and that description is a fog you can't arrest. Rusk's file is clean. Too clean. No disciplinary actions. No complaints. Promotions logged like a staircase. Addresses that change every few years, always within commuting distance of transit corridors. Patel runs his driver's license photo against the cafe footage with the cap-wearing man. The algorithm spits out inconclusive. The cap blocks too much. The angles don't match. The machine refuses to accuse without proof. Machines are better at caution than humans. So she goes human. She finds Rusk's ex-wife. It takes hours. Old numbers. Old records. Finally a woman answers, voice cautious, and Patel introduces herself and hears the silence that follows, thick, wary, loaded with memories that still bite. The ex-wife won't meet at her home. They choose a diner near the highway, the kind with sticky menus and fluorescent lights that make everyone look guilty. The woman arrives with a scarf pulled tight around her neck even though it isn't cold enough for it. She sits with her back to the wall. She doesn't order food. Patel slides Rusk's photo across the table. I'm asking about Daniel Rusk, she says. The ex-wife's eyes flick to it, and her jaw tightens like she's biting down on a scream. Why, she asks. Patel doesn't give her the full horror. She gives her the outline, young woman dead, evidence suggests someone with access. The ex-wife's hands curl around her coffee cup like it's an anchor. He likes control, she says finally, voice low. He likes systems. He liked the trains, because they ran on schedule. He liked the hospital, because it ran on rules. He used to say if you learn the rules, you can disappear inside them. Patel's stomach turns. Hospital, she asks. The ex-wife nods. Before transit, he worked security at a medical facility. Nights. He'd come home smelling like disinfectant. She says the word like it has teeth. Patel feels her pulse change. Did he ever talk about women, she asks. The ex-wife stares at the tabletop. He didn't talk about them, she says. He talked about them like they were late. Like they owed the world punctuality. She looks up, eyes sharp now. He hated when I was late. He'd call from blocked numbers just to listen to me panic. Patel keeps her voice steady. Did he ever hurt you, she asks. The ex-wife's laugh is dry. Not in ways that leave bruises, she says. He didn't need bruises. He needed fear. She hesitates, then adds, there was a time, after we separated, when I got calls. Payphones. No ID. He'd say one sentence and hang up. Like he was leaving a note in my ear. Outside, a truck backfires and the ex-wife flinches hard. Patel watches that reflex and feels the invisible violence of it. What sentence? Patel asks. The ex-wife swallows. He'd say, don't be late. The diner's fluorescent lights buzz overhead, a cheap electric whine, and for a second Patel can't hear anything else. Don't be late. Tanya Green's file. The anonymous calls. The rhythm of control. She feels the world narrow into a single, clean line pointing straight at Rusk. She walks out of the diner into air that tastes like exhaust and winter. Her phone vibrates in her pocket. Kane's number. She answers and tells him, in clipped phrases, what she learned: medical security background, disinfectant, blocked payphone calls, the exact phrase. On the other end, Kane doesn't speak for a beat. Then his voice comes in low and dangerous. Get back to the precinct, he says. Now. Patel drives fast, city lights smearing into streaks. When she reaches homicide, Kane meets her at the door, eyes bright with the kind of anger that's almost hope. He pulls her into the conference room and shuts the door. On the table is a printout from the lab. The partial DNA from the drain swab has hit a database entry, not a full match, but a familial association. A cousin. A half-brother. Someone linked to a man who once worked security at a medical facility and later moved into transit oversight. Kane taps the name on the paper with a finger. We've got a bloodline, he says. We've got a door. Then the phones downstairs start ringing all at once, like the building itself is panicking, and a patrol officer bursts in without knocking, face pale. Detectives, he says, breathless, we just got a call. From a payphone. He said you found her charm. The officer swallows hard. He said, you're getting warmer. And somewhere beyond the precinct walls, beyond the train tracks and the service doors and the tidy paperwork, a calm voice is still writing headlines into the night, one sentence at a time. The words "you're getting warmer" hit the precinct like a match dropped into gasoline, not because they are clever, not because they are scary in the way movie villains are scary, but because they confirm the one thing detectives hate most. The killer is watching the investigation in real time, tasting the panic, feeding on the chase like it's entertainment. Kane doesn't ask where the call came from. He already knows the answer will be useless: payphone, no caller ID, no trace beyond a location that'll be cold by the time anyone gets there, and still he snaps, which one? Because the act of asking is the only control he has left in that second. The patrol officer rattles off an intersection near the west side, and Kane's hand tightens around the printout with the partial DNA association until the paper creases. Patel watches him, watching the anger try to become motion, and she says, he wants us running, because predators love to set the pace. They don't run to the phone. They run to the man. Daniel Rusk has a job title that sounds harmless: supervisor, compliance, oversight, but Kane reads it like a permission slip to touch every locked door in the city. They pull every record they can: badge swipes, incident reports, shift logs, subcontractor invoices, anything with Rusk's name stamped on it. The pattern that emerges isn't a straight line. It's a grid. Rusk's access isn't constant. It spikes in strange intervals, clusters around late-night inspections, signal audits, routine sweeps that never resulted in real repairs. Paperwork that exists purely to justify presence. Kane pins those dates beside Tanya Green's last known movements, beside Elena's last shift, beside the anonymous emails, and the board starts to look less like a case file and more like a calendar of hunting trips. Patel takes the familial DNA lead and turns it into a map. The database doesn't hand you a name neatly wrapped in a bow, it hands you a thread and dares you to pull. The partial match points to a man arrested years ago for assault, nothing that stuck, nothing that made headlines, but enough to leave a DNA sample behind. That man is linked to Rusk through a maternal line. A half-brother. Same mother, different father, different life. Patel tracks him down to a last known address that now belongs to someone else. She tracks further. People who know him say he's gone straight, moved out of state, found religion, got sober. The kind of redemption story America loves. But the file shows something else. He worked, briefly, at the same medical facility Rusk did years earlier. Night shift. Security. Access. Disinfectant. Kane hears this and doesn't smile. He says, it's a family business, like the words taste bitter, like he hates the thought that violence can be passed down like a recipe. They need Rusk's DNA. They need his car. They need his phone history. They need something that holds up in court, because suspicion is just smoke unless you can bottle it. Kane applies for a warrant based on the pattern, the access logs, the ex-wife's statement, the matching phrase, the evidence from the service corridor. The judge is cautious. The prosecutor is cautiouser. Everyone is afraid of getting sued by a transit authority, with lawyers stacked like bricks. Kane sits across from the prosecutor, eyes hard, and says, if we wait for perfect, we get dead, and for a second the prosecutor looks away, because he knows Kane isn't being dramatic. He's being statistical. By the time the warrant comes through, Rusk is already moving. They find out when a uniformed officer at the CTA control office calls Kane directly, voice tight. Rusk didn't show for shift, the officer says. His desk's cleared out. Badge missing. Kane's stomach drops with that cold, clean sensation you get when you realize you're behind. When was he last seen? Kane asks. The officer hesitates. Last night. He said he had a compliance run. He left at 11:45. Kane looks at the clock in his own office and feels the time gap like a knife. 11:45. Midnight. Blue line stop. The phrase in Elena's notebook circles back like a curse. Kane and Patel move fast, but not sloppy. They split the city into what Rusk could control. Service corridors, medical facilities, transit yards, cleaning depots. Places where a man in a dark jacket, with a patch, is not just tolerated but expected. Patel calls hospitals with a calm voice that hides urgency, asking about security contractors on night shift. Kane calls transit yards, asking about supervisors who showed up unannounced. The answers come back thin, hesitant, defensive. No one wants to admit a predator might be wearing their logo. Then a janitor gives them something sharp. The call comes in from a downtown medical building, a place with glass walls and spotless floors and the kind of lobby that smells like money. The janitor is older, voice raspy, and he sounds like he's speaking from a place he didn't want to remember. I saw a guy last night, he says. Didn't belong. Kane asks what he means. The janitor says the man had a security-style jacket, but no visible ID, and he was pushing a cart, one of those linen carts that can hide anything if you pull the curtain just right. The janitor says the man moved like he knew where cameras were, where corners were, where the blind spots lived. He looked at me, the janitor adds, and his voice drops. He looked at me like I was furniture. Kane asks for the time. Just after midnight, the janitor says, and Kane's grip tightens on the phone. They get the building's security footage. It's pristine, high definition, the kind of footage that feels like justice should be easy. The man appears at 12:09 a.m., pushing a cart, head down, hat low. But in this footage the angles are cleaner, the light brighter. Patel freezes the frame and zooms. The face is partially visible. Pale eyes. A mouth held neutral, not by calm, but by discipline. The patch on his shoulder is blurred by motion, but the silhouette is familiar. Kane feels his pulse climb. That's him, he says, and it's not relief. It's the dread of finally seeing the thing that's been hiding in the dark. They run the footage through facial recognition against DMV photos. A list spits out. None are perfect matches, but one is close enough to sting: Daniel Rusk. Kane doesn't celebrate. He says he's in a hospital at midnight with a covered cart. He says it like a headline, because that's what it is. They rush the building. Security meets them in the lobby, stiff and polite and defensive. We have protocols, the security chief says, and Kane's voice cuts through him like a blade. So did he, Kane says. Show me the route. They trace the cart's path through service hallways, past locked doors that open with a badge swipe, into a freight elevator that dips down into the building's basement levels where the air gets colder and the walls lose their polish. The camera coverage down here is worse, older, patched together. The man disappears for 7 minutes in a blind corridor. 7 minutes is an eternity when you're looking for a predator. At the end of that corridor is a storage room. Locked. Biohazard supplies, a sign reads. The security chief fumbles for keys, hands suddenly sweaty. Kane doesn't wait. He orders the door forced, and the lock pops with a sound that feels too small for the moment, like the world is being opened by a cheap tool. Inside, there are shelves stacked with boxes, gloves, masks, disinfectant, bags for medical waste. And in the corner, the linen cart. Empty. But the curtain is damp. Not with water. With something that smells like bleach, and something underneath it that makes Patel's stomach tighten. The scent is faint, but it's there, the ghost of a body where a body should not be. A tech lifts the curtain carefully, as if it might bite. The inner lining is stained at the bottom with a dark smear that has been partially scrubbed. Kane feels rage flare, hot and useless. He looks around the room and sees the drain in the floor, a small circle of metal like an eye. He thinks about the service corridor drain near the underpass, the scrub marks, the bleach. Same ritual. Same cleanup. Same arrogance. Patel notices footprints, faint, almost invisible, as if someone tried to wipe them away, but didn't have time to be perfect. The prints lead to a second door at the back, one that opens into a maintenance tunnel connecting the medical building to a parking structure. The tunnel is narrow, concrete, lit by tired bulbs. Their flashlights painted in harsh white. Halfway down, Kane spots something on the ground, a disposable glove, balled up, tossed like trash. Patel picks it up with forceps, seals it. DNA, she thinks. Finally. They reach the parking structure, and the cold air hits like a slap. There's a security camera above the exit lane. They pull the footage. A dark sedan rolls out at 12:23 a.m., headlights on now, casual, blending. The plate is visible for a split second. Kane leans closer. Patel squints. The image sharpens. The plate reads clean. They run it. The plate belongs to a different vehicle. A fake plate. A borrowed identity. The killer is not just wearing uniforms. He's wearing paperwork. He's wearing systems. He's wrapped himself in the city's administrative skin. A call comes in while they're still in the garage. This time it's not a payphone. It's Elena's mother, because grief has its own radar and mothers sense movement even when they don't understand it. Her voice is raw. They are saying his name on the news, she says. Kane glances at Patel. Who, he asks, though he already knows. Rusk, she says. They are saying you think he did it. Kane's chest tightens. They didn't release that. Someone leaked. Someone wanted the story out. Kane looks around the garage, at security, at cameras, at the building's polished facade, and he feels the case slip into a new danger. Once the public has a name, the suspect has a mirror. He can watch himself become a villain and adjust accordingly. They race back toward the station with lights and sirens, but the city doesn't part cleanly. Cars hesitate. Pedestrians stare. Chicago moves like a beast that doesn't care about a single wound. Kane's mind runs scenarios: Rusk fleeing, Rusk hiding, Rusk staging another scene to keep control, to reclaim the narrative. Patel thinks about that line, "She wasn't the first," and wonders if he said it as a threat or as a boast. She wonders how many women the city never connected, how many bodies became separate tragedies, because the system loves to file pain into isolated folders. They get a location ping from Rusk's work-issued badge. Yes, some badges have tracking, the kind installed after too many thefts, too many security scares. The ping isn't a GPS dot, it's a reader hit. The badge was scanned 15 minutes ago at a transit yard on the near west side, a fenced labyrinth of tracks and service sheds where trains sleep and men in reflective vests move like ants. Kane's stomach tightens. He's going back to his hive, he says. They arrive at the yard and the gate guard looks confused when he sees them, like police don't belong where the city hides its machinery. Kane flashes his badge. "Who scanned Daniel Rusk's card?" he asks. The guard checks a log. His brow furrows. "No one," he says. "That scan came from a service reader. It might have been a test." Patel's eyes sharpen. A test. A false trail. Rusk scanned his badge, or had someone scan it, to pull them here. To make them chase shadows while he moves elsewhere. Kane feels the anger surge again, but it's edged with something colder now: respect. Not admiration. The bitter acknowledgement that the killer is organized, deliberate, comfortable inside these systems. Kane looks past the fence into the yard's darkness and sees the rows of silent trains, their windows black, their doors closed, and he imagines one of them opening quietly at midnight, inviting someone in under the promise of authority. He imagines Elena stepping into a maintenance car, because it looked official. He imagines Tanya doing the same. He imagines how many times people obey uniforms without thinking. A worker approaches them cautiously, a man in a reflective vest with tired eyes. "You looking for Rusk?" he asks. Kane doesn't answer the question, he answers the threat. "Have you seen him?" The worker hesitates, then nods. "Earlier," he says. "He was here. He didn't come to the office. He went straight to Shed 9. Patel's heart rate spikes. Shed 9 is a service shed, a place where trains get cleaned, where equipment gets stored, where the smell of disinfectant would be normal. Kane gestures. "Take us." They move through the yard, crunching gravel under boots, the air sharp with cold and metal. Shed 9 looms ahead, a rectangular shadow with a single light burning above the door like an eye that never closes. The door is slightly ajar. Kane raises his weapon. Patel's hand hovers near hers. The world narrows to breath and footsteps and the distant, faint rumble of a train somewhere far away like thunder moving through tunnels. They push the door open. Inside, the shed is cavernous, lit by harsh overhead lights. A train car sits on a service track, doors open, interior dim. Cleaning supplies line the walls: bleach, disinfectant, industrial mops. The air reeks of chemicals, sharp enough to sting eyes. On the concrete floor near the train car, there's a wet patch, freshly scrubbed, and in the middle of it, a small object glints under the light. A phone. Not Elena's. Newer. Sleek. The screen is cracked. Patel steps closer, careful, and sees something on the lock screen, an unfinished outgoing call, number dialed but not connected. The number is a payphone location. Kane's jaw tightens. He scans the shed. Rusk, he shouts, voice echoing off metal. No answer. Just the buzzing hum of fluorescent lights, the drip of water somewhere, the faint mechanical tick of a cooling engine. Patel's flashlight sweeps the open train car and catches something on one of the seats, a folded jacket, dark, with a patch on the shoulder. The patch isn't CTA. It's a generic security emblem, the kind any contractor can buy, the kind that means nothing and everything. Beside it, a pair of latex gloves. Beside that, a laminated ID badge holder with no photo inside. A costume laid out like a snake skin. Then Kane hears it, a sound beneath the chemical sting, beneath the echo, a soft scrape from inside the train car, like a shoe against metal. He raises his weapon and moves forward, step by step, the barrel steady, the breath in his chest loud as a siren. Patel follows, angle wide, eyes flicking to corners, to shadows, to the spaces between seats where someone could crouch and wait. The train car smells like cleaner and something faintly human, the ghost of sweat or fear trapped in upholstery. Kane reaches the midpoint and stops, listening. Nothing. Then, from the back of the car, a voice, flat, calm, practiced, slides out of the darkness like a blade drawn slowly from a sheath. Detective, it says, and Kane's skin prickles, because it's not a shout. It's intimate, like the voice is right beside his ear. You're warmer. The voice comes from the back of the car like it's riding the air itself, calm and clean and too controlled to belong to a man cornered, and for a split second Kane's brain refuses to accept it as real, because real voices crack when adrenaline hits, real voices tremble when guns are drawn. But this one doesn't shake at all. It just settles into the space like a headline being laid onto paper. Detective, you're warmer. Kane freezes, barrel trained forward, eyes locked on the dark aisle ahead, and the fluorescent buzz above him suddenly sounds like insects chewing through wire. Patel's breath is shallow behind him, the smell of industrial disinfectant burns at the back of the throat. And then Kane speaks, low and hard, as if volume itself could grant the voice power. Step out, he says. Hands where I can see them. Silence answers, not empty silence, the kind that feels occupied, the kind that makes your skin itch. Then the voice returns, still flat, still intimate, as if it's speaking through glass. You don't want that, it says. You want certainty. You want the right man. Kane's jaw tightens, because the sentence isn't fear, it's bait, an offer to doubt your own instincts, an offer to hesitate. Patel shifts a half step, widening her angle, flashlight beam skating over seat backs, over the metal poles, over the shadows pooling in the corners, and the beam catches a glint near the rear door. Something reflective, like a strip of tape, like a badge clip, like a law. Kane takes one slow step forward, heel landing soft on the ribbed floor, and then it happens fast, too fast for thought. A sharp crack of sound, metal striking metal, comes from the left, a maintenance panel snapping open with a slap, and at the same time a burst of white powder explodes across the aisle like smoke, not thick enough to blind completely but enough to sting eyes, to make lungs seize, to make the world smear at the edges. Patel coughs once, controlled, but Kane feels his eyes water, reflexive, and the voice is gone, not fading, not running, just vanishing, the way a shadow disappears when you turn your head. Move. Kane barks, and they surge forward, but the aisle is suddenly slippery, powdered residue under their boots, and somewhere near the back a door slams, one of the side service doors, not meant for passengers, meant for workers who know the car's anatomy. Patel's flashlight beam swings wild, catching the rear corner for a heartbeat. A dark figure slipping through a narrow hatch, cap low, jacket blending into shadow, hands gloved, movement efficient, practiced, like this route was walked 100 times in the mind before it was walked once in reality. Kane lunges, reaches the hatch just as it clanks shut, and he slams his shoulder into it, metal biting his collarbone. Locked. Of course it's locked. Locked from the other side, the way only someone with internal access knows how to lock it. The shed outside is still, deceptively empty, echoing with their footsteps and the lingering scrape of something moving fast. Kane storms out of the train car, vision still blurred at the edges from the powder, weapon up, and he sees the open shed door leading to darkness, the yard beyond like a mouth. Patel follows, coughing once more, and says, he had an exit, because that's what predators do. They don't improvise, they pre-build escape hatches in their minds. Kane radios for perimeter units, voice clipped, words fired like bullets into the night. Suspect in transit yard, possible armed, possible wearing security jacket, lock down all gates, check sheds, check cars. The radio crackles with acknowledgements that sound too slow, like the city itself is moving through molasses. Outside, the yard is a grid of tracks and sleeping machines, and it's easy to imagine disappearing here, blending into the black lines and steel shadows. A train horn groans somewhere distant, a low moan that feels like warning, and Kane's eyes sweep the gravel for fresh prints, for dropped items, for any imperfection left by someone who believes he leaves none. Patel's flashlight catches a smear near the shed threshold, a thin line of wet, cleaner-scented fluid, like a trail, but it's too neat, too obvious. No, Patel murmurs. That's staged. Kane's muscles tighten. A staged trail is a dare. A staged trail is someone saying, follow me if you're stupid. They don't follow the wet line. They do the opposite. They cut wide, scanning the shadowed edges near the fence where someone would actually run. Patel angles toward a row of service trucks parked behind a chain-link barrier, each one white, anonymous, the kind you could drive through the city without anyone remembering you. Kane checks the nearest gate, padlock intact. No cut. No forced hinge. The killer didn't leave through the obvious. The killer never leaves through the obvious. Then a sound slices through the night, an engine turning over, low, controlled, somewhere beyond the next set of tracks. Kane's head snaps toward it. There, he says, and they sprint, boots crunching gravel, breath burning in cold air. They clear a narrow service lane and see headlights flare briefly behind a maintenance building, then snap off again, like a predator blinking. A vehicle rolls, silent, using the darkness like camouflage, and Kane catches only a silhouette, a dark sedan, low profile, moving with the smooth confidence of someone who has done this before. Kane raises his weapon instinctively, but the distance is too far, the angle wrong, and he knows it, knows shooting would be theater, not justice. He radios the direction. He hears dispatch repeat it. He hears sirens far away, delayed echoes that feel almost mocking. The sedan reaches a gate at the far perimeter, and impossibly, it opens. No crash. No rattle. Just the gate sliding aside like it recognizes the car. Access. Always access. Kane's stomach drops. Someone, somewhere, is letting him out. Or the killer has the same keys the city uses to lock itself. The sedan slips through, gate closes behind it, and by the time Kane and Patel reach the perimeter fence, all they can see is darkness, and the faint afterimage of taillights like a memory that refuses to hold shape. Kane stands there breathing hard, fists clenched, staring at the sealed gate as if he could burn through it with anger. Patel's voice is quieter, almost clinical, because someone has to be. He had clearance, she says. Or someone opened it. Kane doesn't answer, because both possibilities are poison. Clearance means the system is compromised. Someone opening it means the system is collaborating. Either way, the killer is not just inside the city, he is inside its organs. They return to Shed 9 with techs within minutes, because if the killer left, he left something. He always leaves something. He's been leaving sentences and charms and scrubbed stains like punctuation marks. The shed is relit, photographed, mapped. The phone on the floor gets bagged. The jacket with the generic patch gets bagged. The laminated badge holder gets bagged. Kane watches the ritual and feels no comfort, because evidence doesn't matter if the man who made it can always slip out through a gate that opens like an obedient jaw. Patel picks up the cracked phone with gloved hands and studies the broken lock screen. It's not a burner. It's too new, too expensive. And the SIM tray, she notices it's empty. No SIM. Just a shell used for one thing. To dial a payphone number saved into the contacts as a name. Patel turns the phone slightly, and under the cracked glass, she sees a word typed into the Notes app, a single line, unfinished, like someone began writing a message and then got interrupted. The line reads, "Compliance means consent." Patel's chest tightens, because it isn't just creepy. It's doctrine. It's how you justify taking someone's life, while believing you're simply enforcing a rule. The glove the tech found in the hospital tunnel comes back from the lab faster than it should, rushed through the pipeline like a bomb threat. Kane and Patel huddle over the printout when it arrives. DNA. Partial. Enough markers to be useful. And it doesn't match Rusk's database profile, because they still don't have Rusk's DNA. But it matches the familial line. It matches the half-brother's line. It confirms the bloodline thread isn't a coincidence. Whoever wore that glove is close enough to Rusk's family tree to share biology, close enough to share something else, training, philosophy, the same calm voice that treats murder like procedure. Kane pushes harder for Rusk's direct DNA. He sends a team to Rusk's house with the warrant and orders them to collect anything personal, hair from a brush, saliva from a cup, blood from a bandage, anything. The team reports back, the house is clean. Not tidy clean. Stripped clean. Closets empty. Bathroom bare. Kitchen cupboards hollow. Like someone moved out in a single night, without leaving a breadcrumb of identity. But in the bedroom closet, behind where shirts once hung, an officer finds something taped to the drywall at eye level, a folded sheet of paper, plain, unmarked. They bring it in sealed. Kane opens it carefully at his desk, as if it might cut. Inside is a printed transit map of Chicago, the lines traced in different colors, and on that map, several stations are circled in thick black ink, each circle paired with a date written beside it. Patel leans in. Some dates are years old. Some are recent. The circled stations form a pattern, each one near a medical facility, a nursing home, a late-night clinic. A network. A route. A hunting trail laid across the city like a blueprint. And in the margin, in neat block letters, is a sentence that makes Kane's throat go tight. The city moves because people obey. Patel feels her skin prickle, because the sentence is true, and truth in the hands of a killer becomes weaponized. They cross-reference the circled dates with missing persons reports, with unsolved assaults, with bodies found near tracks that were never connected, because the city never wants to believe it has one monster when it can pretend it has many unrelated tragedies. The list grows. A woman missing in 1999, last seen near a late-night clinic. Another in 2001, last phone ping near a Blue Line station. A Jane Doe found in 2003 near an underpass, filed away with the quiet cruelty of paperwork. Patel's fingers move across the files like she's counting bruises. Kane watches and feels a cold realization settle. Elena and Tanya might be the only ones who were found quickly enough to be recognized, but they are not the only ones who existed. A captain calls Kane into his office. The door closes. The blinds are half drawn. The captain's face is tight with the look of a man who knows politics is about to eat justice. You're making accusations about transit management, the captain says. Kane doesn't blink. I'm following evidence, he replies. The captain exhales. CTA has friends, he says. The mayor's office is calling. They want this quiet. Kane's voice stays level, but it carries a blade. Elena's mother wants her daughter back, he says. Quiet doesn't do that. The captain rubs his temples. Be careful, he says finally. Because if you don't nail him clean, he'll sue, and he'll walk, and he'll smile on the evening news. Kane leaves the office with the warning stuck to his ribs like a splinter. Patel meets him in the hallway with her phone held out. We have something, she says, and her voice is tight. It's a call log from a CTA internal line. A private system that doesn't show up on public records unless you know how to ask. There's an outgoing call at 12:15 a.m. on the night Elena vanished, placed from the transit control office to a payphone near the station. Patel's eyes lock on Kane's. Someone inside called out, she says. Kane's jaw tightens. Or someone made it look like they did, he says, but even as he speaks, he knows the deeper horror. Internal lines aren't accessible to the public. They require a desk. A login. A badge. A person who belongs. They review who was on shift in the control office that night. Names. Schedules. Badge swipes. Rusk's name appears, of course, logged in at 11:32 p.m., logged out at 2:07 a.m., a clean arc that frames the window of death like a picture frame. But the security footage from the control office is missing for that night. System outage, the liaison says, too quickly, too smoothly. Kane feels his hands curl into fists. Outages happen, but they don't happen neatly around murder unless someone makes them. Patel goes back to the ex-wife, because witnesses hold memories you don't realize you need until you're desperate. This time the ex-wife doesn't hesitate to talk. News has already chewed Rusk's name. Fear has already changed her tone. She tells Patel something she didn't say before because she didn't want it to be real, that Rusk used to keep a binder. Not a scrapbook. A binder. Plastic sleeves. Tabs. Categories. Routes, he called them. Compliance checks. He'd sit at the table late at night, tracing lines on maps with a pen, the way some men do crossword puzzles. When she asked what he was doing, he'd smile and say, making sure everything runs on time. Patel asks where the binder is now. The ex-wife laughs once, bitter. If he's gone, she says, it's with him. He doesn't leave his rules behind. Back in Homicide, Kane stares at the transit map evidence and thinks about binders, about tabs, about control. He thinks about the killer's voice in the train car, how it didn't sound like a man hiding. It sounded like a man teaching. Teaching them that systems can be used as weapons, that authority can be worn like a mask, that fear can be scheduled. He thinks about the gate opening at the yard perimeter, smooth as permission. He thinks about the captain's warning, the mayor's calls, the way institutions close ranks when threatened. And then his phone rings. Not dispatch. Not a tip line. It's a direct extension. Kane answers and hears breathing first, slow and steady, like someone enjoying the moment. Then the voice arrives, flat and familiar, the same tone that slid through the darkness of the train car. Detective Kane, it says, pronouncing the name carefully, like it's savoring it. Kane's blood turns cold. He doesn't speak. He doesn't give the voice anything. The voice continues anyway, because it doesn't need permission. You like doors, it says. You like logs. You like neat little lines. A pause, almost playful. Do you know what happens when a system decides you don't belong? Kane's grip tightens on the phone. Patel steps closer, eyes wide. The voice adds, softer now, intimate as breath on glass. Check your own access. The line clicks dead. For a second, the precinct noise returns, phones, footsteps, printers, like nothing happened, like the city is still pretending it's normal. Then Patel turns her computer monitor toward Kane. On the screen is an alert from the department's internal network, access denied. Kane tries his login. Denied. Patel tries hers. Denied. Their badge swipes at the secured hallway door flash red. A security guard looks over, confused, then reaches for his radio. Kane feels the ground shift under his feet, because the killer didn't just escape. He reached into their world and flipped a switch. And in that moment, standing in a building full of cops with guns and badges that suddenly mean nothing, Kane understands the point of the call, the point of the map, the point of the disinfectant clean rituals. This isn't only about killing. It's about control so total it can turn the protectors into trespassers, with a single quiet decision, and somewhere out there, moving through the city's corridors like he belongs, the calm voice is still writing the story, one locked door at a time. The red light on the hallway reader blinks like an accusation, and for a second it feels unreal. Two homicide detectives locked out of their own building, their badges suddenly decorative, their names suddenly denied by a system that was supposed to recognize them. Kane swipes again, slower, as if speed was the problem, as if a machine could be persuaded by patience. Red. Patel tries hers. Red. The security guard at the desk raises his eyebrows, half amused, half wary, like he's watching a prank unfold, but then he sees Kane's face and the humor drains out of him. The guard reaches for his radio, and Kane hears it, the tone change, the tiny shift from normal to alert, and he knows the killer's call wasn't a threat, it was a demonstration. I can touch your world. I can turn your authority into a costume. I can make you trespassers in your own house. Kane doesn't argue with the guard. He doesn't have time to perform. He pivots, grabs Patel's elbow, and pulls her toward the side stairwell where the old door doesn't always talk to the network. The stairwell smells like concrete and mop water, the kind of smell that never leaves government buildings, and the door handle is cold under Kane's glove. It opens. They drop into the stairwell and descend fast, footsteps echoing, because the next thing a system does after it locks you out is it tells someone you've become a problem. Patel's phone is already in her hand, thumb flying. No network access means no case files, no internal email, no database queries, no badge logs. It's an amputation. Kane calls his only lifeline, a detective he trusts on a different unit, an old friend with a dirty sense of humor and a clean conscience. Mills, he says when the call connects, voice low. Check your access. Now. There's a pause, and Kane can hear the precinct noise through Mills's receiver. What are you talking about? Mills asks. Just do it, Kane snaps. Another pause, then Mills whistles, sharp. It's fine, Mills says. I'm in. My login works. Kane's stomach tightens. Mine doesn't, he says. Patel's doesn't. Someone just kicked us out. Mills's voice drops. That's not IT, he says. That's command. That's how it happens. Not with sirens. With paperwork. With a button pressed by someone who smiles while they do it. Kane and Patel emerge in the garage level where the air is colder and the lights are harsher. They move past rows of city vehicles and cracked concrete pillars, a place that feels like the underside of the institution. Kane hears footsteps behind them and doesn't turn until he's ready to see who's coming. Two uniformed officers appear at the top of the stairwell, faces tight, hands near their belts. One of them says Kane's name carefully, like he's defusing a bomb. Detective Kane, he says. Captain wants you upstairs. Kane doesn't move. Tell the captain I'll call, he says. The officer hesitates. Sir, Patel cuts in, calm as ice. We're in the middle of an active homicide, she says. If you want to impede it, say that into the record. The officers exchange a glance. Nobody wants their name attached to stopping a murder investigation, not if it later ends up on a reporter's tongue. The first officer shifts. "We were told to escort you," he says, softer. Kane nods once, like he understands, like he doesn't blame them, and then he steps closer, just close enough that the officer can smell his anger without seeing it. "Here's what you're going to do," Kane says quietly. "You're going to walk back upstairs, and you're going to tell whoever flipped that switch that if they touch this case again, I'll drag the whole building into daylight." The officer swallows, eyes flicking. He's young. He knows how power works. He also knows how scandals work. He nods and backs away. When the stairwell door closes, Patel exhales through her nose, a thin stream. "He wants us isolated," she says. Kane looks toward the ramp leading out of the garage. "Then we work outside," he answers, and the words feel like a vow. They drive to Patel's apartment, because it's private, because it's off-network, because the killer can't lock a deadbolt with a badge swipe. Her place is small, neat, with books stacked in disciplined piles and a kettle that whistles too loud. Kane sits at her kitchen table like it's a war room, phone in hand, and starts building an investigation out of scraps, personal contacts, public records, old-fashioned calls that don't require a password. Patel opens her laptop and uses what she can, public databases, news archives, anything not behind the department's wall. It feels primitive, like trying to fight a machine with a knife, but they've fought worse. Mills calls back within 20 minutes. "You're not going to like this," he says. Kane's eyes harden. "Say it," Kane replies. Mills exhales. "Internal Affairs is asking about you," he says. "They are saying you accessed restricted CTA systems without authorization. They are saying you leaked a suspect's name to the press." Kane's laugh is short and humorless. "I don't talk to the press," he says. "Someone leaked to protect him." Patel grips her mug so hard her knuckles pale. Mills continues, "They also said your badge was flagged for potential misuse. That's why you're locked out." Kane goes still. Potential misuse. The phrase is a weapon. It makes you sound dirty before you've done anything wrong. "Who flagged it?" Kane asks. Mills hesitates. "The request came from upstairs," he says. "Captain says it's temporary." Temporary is how they soften the knife before they slide it in. Patel pulls up news on her laptop. The headline is already running. CTA supervisor named in grisly cold case. Detectives under scrutiny. She reads the subheading, jaw tightening. Sources say investigators may have overstepped. Kane stares at the screen and feels the narrative shifting under his feet. It's not just that the killer controls doors. The killer controls stories. He's turning the chase into a scandal. He's making the investigators the spectacle, so he can walk away in the confusion. Patel scrolls and finds a quote attributed to a CTA spokesperson, claiming Rusk has no confirmed involvement, and that transit safety remains a priority, followed by an anonymous, law enforcement source, implying Kane and Patel acted unilaterally and failed to follow protocols. Patel's eyes narrow. "Those aren't random leaks," she says. "That's coordinated." Kane's mouth twists. "That's a system protecting itself," he says, and the words land heavy. They need leverage. Something outside the system that can't be flipped off by a captain's mood. Patel thinks of the ex-wife. Kane thinks of the binder. The binder with tabs and routes and rules. If it exists, it's a map of crimes, a confession written in administrative language. They call her. She answers on the second ring, breath tight. "They've been calling me," she says before Patel can even speak. "Men in suits. They said I should stop talking." Patel's voice stays calm, but her eyes flash. "Who?" she asks. The ex-wife doesn't know names. She knows Cologne. She knows the hard politeness of intimidation. They said they were from transit, she whispers. They said Daniel's missing and I'm making it worse. Missing. Not suspected. Not wanted. Missing. The word is kinder, softer. The word erases harm. Patel asks the ex-wife one question that matters. Where would he go if he didn't want to be found? Silence. Then the ex-wife says, he has a storage unit, and the word storage hits the air like a dropped tool. Kane leans forward. Where, he asks, and the ex-wife gives an address in Cicero, an industrial stretch of low buildings and chain-link fences where people hide their past in rented boxes. They don't wait for permission. They can't. The system already denied them. Kane and Patel drive there in Patel's car, unmarked, civilian, blending into traffic. The sky hangs low, the kind of gray that makes every street look guilty. They reach the storage facility and park 2 rows back, watching. The place is quiet, but quiet is not safe. Quiet is where secrets sit. Patel walks to the office first, posture casual, smile polite. The clerk is bored, chewing gum, eyes half-lidded. Patel flashes an old badge photo on her phone, not enough to be official, just enough to suggest consequence. We're looking for a unit rented under Daniel Rusk, she says. The clerk's eyes sharpen a fraction. We can't give, Patel tilts her head slightly. A woman is dead, she says softly, and somehow the softness is the threat. The clerk swallows, glances toward the back as if the units can hear. Unit 417, he says finally, voice small. But he hasn't paid in a week. Kane's pulse steadies. Non-payment is not negligence. Non-payment is flight. They walk the rows of units, metal doors lined up like mouths clamped shut. Unit 417 sits near the end, away from cameras, away from the office. Of course it does. Kane crouches by the lock. It's a disc lock, heavy, clean. No cut marks. No pry marks. He runs a finger along the metal and feels the faintest smear of oil, fresh. Recently touched. Patel takes out her phone and calls Mills. We need a favor, she says, and she doesn't explain because explanations get you recorded. Mills listens, then says, I'll see what I can do, in the tone of a man who knows this will cost him sleep. 20 minutes later, an off-duty locksmith arrives, a thick man with a toolbox and no curiosity. He looks at Kane and Patel, reads their faces, and doesn't ask questions. Questions are expensive. He drills. The lock gives with a dull crunch. Kane grips the handle and pulls the door up. Cold air spills out, stale, smelling of cardboard and disinfectant, and something faintly metallic. The unit is stacked with plastic tubs, filing boxes, a folded chair, a cheap desk lamp, and in the center, like an altar, a black binder sitting on top of a storage trunk. Patel's breath catches. Kane steps in and flips the binder open. Tabs. Neat labels. Routes. Timing. Compliance. Plastic sleeves filled with printed maps, highlighted lines, station names circled, dates written beside them. It's the transit map they found at Rusk's house, but expanded, systematized, obsessive. There are lists too, typed names with initials instead of full identities, like victims reduced to inventory. Columns, last seen. Contact method. Response. Under contact method, a repeated word, payphone. Under response, sometimes, on time. Sometimes, late. Sometimes, corrected. Corrected. Kane's throat tightens until swallowing feels like pain. He turns another page and sees a section titled Discipline. Inside are printed photos, grainy surveillance stills, women on platforms, women walking alone, women entering clinics, each image time-stamped, annotated with small notes. Looks up. Hesitates. Obeys. Patel's skin crawls. This isn't stalking the way people imagine stalking. This is auditing. This is someone who thinks human beings are variables to be managed. Then Kane finds Elena's name, not in full, but in the initials that match, EM beside it, cafe, loop. Contact established. Midnight test. Under it, a note in the same block lettering from the cracked phone, compliance means consent. Patel flips further and finds Tanya Green's initials too. And another. And another. Names of women who were never connected. Missing women. Jane Does. A ledger of ghosts. Kane's phone rings, and the sound is like a gunshot in the tight air of the unit. Unknown number. He answers anyway, because he can't not. The breathing comes first, slow, steady, and Kane's heart turns to ice, because he recognizes the rhythm. Then the voice slides in, flat as steel. You found my files, it says, and Patel's head snaps toward Kane, eyes wide. Kane doesn't speak. The voice continues, unbothered. You like binders, it says. So tidy. So official. A pause, almost amused. Did you think you could open a door without consequences? Kane's grip tightens on the phone. Where are you? He asks, and the question comes out low, dangerous, the sound of a man trying not to become violence. The voice laughs once, barely audible. Where I'm authorized, it says. Where you're not. Another pause, softer now, intimate as a secret. Look in the bottom drawer. Patel's eyes flick to the storage trunk under the binder. Kane nods once, and Patel kneels, hands moving fast, popping the trunk latch. Inside are more files, more maps, more plastic sleeves. Then, at the very bottom, wrapped in a clear evidence bag like a twisted joke, Elena's phone. The line goes dead. Patel lifts the phone out with trembling gloves. The screen is intact. The power button responds. It turns on, bright as a wound. Notifications flood the display, missed calls, messages, a life interrupted. Patel opens the messages and her stomach drops. There's a draft text that was never sent, typed at 12:06 a.m. the night Elena vanished. It's addressed to Marisol. It reads, he says it's official. He says I have to come now. I don't like this. He says it's official. Kane closes his eyes for a second, and when he opens them, his gaze is razor-sharp. Because now it isn't just theory. Now it's a recorded moment of fear. Now it's proof the uniform wasn't incidental, it was the hook. The killer didn't abduct Elena by overpowering her. He abducted her by borrowing authority, by making her feel like resistance was non-compliance, and somewhere in the city, somewhere behind a door marked authorized, he's still moving in the spaces where people obey first and question later. Outside the storage unit, a car door slams. Kane's eyes snap up. Patel freezes, phone in hand, breath held. Footsteps approach along the gravel lane between units, slow and steady, not hurried, not hiding. Kane gestures Patel back into the unit's shadow, and he steps to the door frame, body angled, hand near his weapon even though he doesn't have a badge that means anything right now. The footsteps stop, just outside. A man's voice speaks, polite, unfamiliar. Maintenance, it says. We're doing rounds. And in the silence that follows, Kane understands something with sick clarity. The killer doesn't need to find them. He can send the system to do it for him.